Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fashion Dex and LIM College Fashion and Sustainability Summits 2020 virtual series. My name is Andrea Kennedy, and welcome. Today's webinar and all 20 of our series is brought to you by the amazing Eco Life yarns that are made with renewable energy and recycled fibers and very low impact, as well as Kendor Textiles, specializing in environmentally responsible knits and wovens, and the Accessories Council that puts on lots of educational seminars and supports designer accessory brands. During the presentation, excuse me, if you have a question, you can put it in the chat box or in the Q&A box. We please ask you do not put them in both, simply for management, and your questions will be asked in the last 30 minutes. Your raise hand feature will not be seen if you are an attendee, so put your question in the chat box, but if you're a live attendee, feel free to use it. And welcome to week 3. Today's panel is titled A Conversation on Sustainability and Sourcing with Local and Domestic Suppliers, and we are really excited to have a conversation around rates. Your moderator today is Tsui, Pappas, Director of Sustainability, Product Development, and Sourcing at JS Group. She is joined by 5 panelists: David Prentice, the VP of Sales of On Point Manufacturing; Jessica Osborn, CEO and founder of Privy; Diviya Loomba, Vice President of Development at Eagle Fabrics; Anna Livermore, who is the founder of V.Mora, and Jenny Siede, who is the Chief Thinker and Strategist at InStyle Exchange. Sue's co-moderator is Fashion Merchandising major and Sustainability minor student, Austin Sierra from LIM College. So without that further ado, Sue, Pappas, please take us away. Take it away.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sue Pappas. I am the Director of Sustainability and Product Development Sourcing at JS Group International. We are a group that's based out of Montreal, New York, and Los Angeles. We own several fashion labels, and that one of the labels is Amber, which is a sustainable brand. We also oversee the design and production of Halston, Carmen Mark Volvo, JS Collections, Thea, and Monique Lahoulier. I'm excited to have a conversation today about local-based sourcing and what the challenges are and what the successes are for domestic production. I am also a person who grew up in domestic production. My mother was a domestic contractor here in New York. So I've lived my entire life in production, both domestically and overseas. So hopefully we will have a very meaningful conversation today that will be helpful to our audience. I'd like to introduce David Prentice from On Point Manufacturing, who's on our panel today. David?
Well, thank you very much, Sue. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here with you guys. I wish you could be in person, but hopefully the next one we'll be all together on the same stage there. On Point Manufacturing is an American-based, one-off, on-demand clothing manufacturer. We're headquartered in Nashville, Tennessee. Our first manufacturing plant is in northern Alabama in a town called Florence, and looking at a couple more facilities in the U.S. as we speak here. We literally have no minimums. The minimum is 1. It's a fast turnaround, and we can drop ship straight to the client with that. It's all about sustainability today, and I don't think there's anything more sustainable than selling the garment, then making it and shipping it, which is kind of our mantra. Sell it, make it, ship it, and repeat, hopefully many times a day.
Great. Next on our panel is Jessica Osborn, the CEO and founder of Privy Label. Jessica?
Hi, everyone. It's great to be here today. So at Privy Label, we specialize in bringing apparel lines to life. We do everything from design, fabric sourcing, development of samples, and we have a network of partner factories all based in the US. We are based in New Orleans, and the factories are across the US, specializing in low minimums, anywhere from 50 to 200 units to start with. One of our factories that we work with is actually OPM.
That's great.
Another thing that we do offer for clients that are maybe not looking for a full package of services is on our website, we have all of our fabric sources in a downloadable Excel sheet, along with you can book an hour consultation just to talk about your brand and what specific fabrics you're looking for. We are really passionate about using sustainable fabrics in future clothing lines. And we can also, if you're totally ready for production, we can help you just with finding a US production partner. So those are all on our shop tab of our website. Check them out.
Amazing. Next on our panel is Diviya Loomba, who is the Vice President of Development for Eagle Fabrics. A very great thing to find a resource like Eagle Fabrics here in the United States. Diviya?
Thanks, Sue. Hi, everyone. I'm Diviya Loomba, Vice President of Eagle Fabrics, and thank you for the Fashion Index team for having us and this amazing panel. So we're a fabric manufacturer here in Los Angeles that specializes in knitting, dyeing, finishing, and printing fabrics for apparel. We've been established since 1988, and for over 20 years, we've been a pioneer when it comes to developing innovative fabrics, especially with our extensive collection that uses environmentally friendly fibers, such as Tencel lyocell, Tencel modal, recycled cotton, organic cotton, and so many more. As a second generation leader of Eagle Fabrics, I strive to put sustainability at the forefront of our business, and I'm passionate in informing designers and founders on how it's possible to build their brands with USA manufacturing. We have an extensive collection of stock fabrics as well as low minimums for these items that are readily available. We also are very big on the business model of doing made to order of signature custom fabrics for the brand, so you really can help set your brand apart from the others.
That's fantastic. Next on our panel is Jenny Siede, who's the Chief Thinker for InStyle Exchange. Jenny, can you let us know a little bit about your company?
Yes. So for the last 16 plus years, we have been the American Sustainable Manufacturing Hub. We could say that it's because we make everything right here in our office. We specialize in small batches and made in USA. And so we work with our entrepreneurs from developing their patterns to grading and marking and everything using technology into doing our production. And also because of my background in software engineering, so we are able to also think outside of the box. A lot of our clients have innovative ideas, and that's where my specialty fits in. It's something that may be challenging to other people, but it will be something that I enjoy solving problems for my clients and help them to innovate.
Great. Last but not least is Anna Livermore, founder and CEO of V.Mora. Anna, please tell us a little bit about your company.
Hi, Sue. Thanks so much. It's great to be here. I'm Anna from V.Mora, and we help designers with everything that they need, from patterns, samples, sourcing. I also do one-on-one coaching. I can do that with them personally, or I have a virtual coaching program that'll show them the system and give them what they need in regards to vendors and templates and checklists. And then once they're ready for production, we pair them with a manufacturer that works for them. And we also help with branding and social media, photo shoots. So everything from start to finish.
That's fantastic. So let's jump right in. I'd love to bring some questions to our panel. Feel free to answer. As a person who's doing a tremendous amount of sourcing domestically and abroad, one of the biggest concerns I would say is cost, labor costs domestically versus overseas. I'd like to know how are you able to keep your costs down and remain competitive? I guess, David, would you like to jump in on that?
You know, the scaling and everything, we literally make one garment at a time. I mean, you can scale that up, you can order multiples. The question is always, can you make 100? Absolutely, all day, every day. Why do you need 100? If they haven't sold, why make them? So, you know, with us, it's labor costs, and we pay literally a living wage in Alabama, and up from there. So it's our systems that really allow us to do what we do, and we've developed all of those. I kind of joke we're an IT company masquerading as a clothing manufacturer. That's what allows us to make one garment at a time.
I would like to jump in, same thing with David just mentioned, it's the process, right? So we have to focus on lean manufacturing. If the process is right, you know, the steps are there, then it doesn't take as long as it needed to develop the products. And also, I agree with David on you have to pay a sustainable wage. And so I don't compete on low-cost garments. Sorry, this is not what my purpose is in life. I want to pay people enough to live a good life here. And so I focus on small batches, and I pay them, you know, at least $15 an hour. And so this is how I want to run my business.
Great. I think that's a very important aspect that people who do sourcing have to understand the differences within countries and what your product stands for. That's something I have discussions with my group a great deal. I just wanted to also introduce, we have Benjamin Boshani from Noveltex that just joined our panel from the West Coast. So welcome.
I'm in really quick on the fabric side for costing.
Sure, absolutely.
So I know that, you know, of course, labor costs on the manufacturing side for apparels is, you know, tricky when it comes to overseas and domestic, but on the fabric side, I guess it depends really on the size of the brand. So if you're a brand that is in the realm of doing, you know, 800 to 1,000 yards and can meet minimums of doing a custom fabric, then one really great way to fit a target price point is actually to work backwards from your target price range, where we'll work, let's say you have a target price point, and we can actually reverse engineer from that price point and play with different fibers, different weights in order to help accomplish and meet that target. And then another option is if you're a brand who's looking for something that's a smaller and in-stock product, is maybe you design into a fabric that already exists. And then from there, you can scale, and let's say you project that your orders are going to be larger, then you go into diving into custom manufacturing. But that would be a great way to scale. And to David's point is where start with what you know that you can sell and forecast according from there, and then move up.
I agree with
That's
that.
a really great way to approach sourcing. I think working backwards for sure allows both the manufacturer and the factory and yourself, fabric supplier, to work within those parameters. My other question is about producing things domestically. Obviously, labor and skills are a concern. In your companies, do you have some training program, or how do you go about getting that skilled labor that you may require for garment producing?
I want to go first then. So in terms of skill, there are two sets. So we do everything here. So the patterning skills, now we have upgraded to 3D development and really cut down on unnecessary samples. Now that to train people, it does take time because the schools are still teaching methods from 150 years ago. And so we need to really bridge that gap right now. It's just like urgent. You need to teach people how to use technology to develop garments. And also then it's the seamstress and the stitcher sewing part. We have so many kinds of different machines. We have cover stitch, we have the regular single needles, and we have, you know, sergers, all kinds of sergers for different types of garment development. And so I cross-train my people. First of all, I need to know how to maintain those machines myself. And actually I love, I have to learn it the hard way. I have to take apart a machine and put it back together. And so, but I am showing my people how to do the same thing. I'm saying, I just really think that on the job training and really encouraging to try different things, and it's fun, right? If we make it fun, then people want to do it, and that's how I do it.
Yeah,
That's good.
sewing is an Achilles heel for sure in for manufacturing in the U.S. We don't do the front end. I'm really looking for a compliant tech pack and digitized patterns, and we rely on Privy Label and V.Mora to do stuff like that for us. That's their bailiwick, and then we take it to the manufacturing from there. And you know, we start training, and training never stops. We've got 3 levels of sewers within our facility. You're constantly testing if you want to go up the ladder, and specific products require that specific level of silver, whether it's a bronze, a silver, or a gold, or the levels in between there that they do it. And so you're constantly being able to, our employees are able to test on their own and improve their ability to manufacture through training, and then improve their wage, where our top sewer at the top level makes $25 an hour. So it's really, it's a lot of things involved to keep it going and keep it improving and keep the quality there always.
Great.
Yeah.
I'd like to direct this next question to Anna and to Jessica. How have you been able to maximize the positive aspects of local sourcing to your advantage and obviously to your clients?
Great, yeah, I can take that. So there's a few things that you've said in comparing prices to offshore. It's going to be really, really difficult to do that. So you've really got to focus on the positives of doing things domestically. You've got the lower minimums, you know your factories, they're compliant. You know, you can contact David, you can go to those manufacturers, you can be present for the quality checks, the pickups, the drop-offs, and that is just, you know, beneficial, so beneficial to a startup designer. It gives you a lot more freedom than having to meet those high minimums. So yeah, I think just knowing your factory and building that into your brand story, and because people want to know where things are made, people want to know about the behind the scenes, and that you can't do offshore. So really focusing in on that and the smaller minimums.
Yeah, I totally agree with everything Anna's saying. But I would add that, you know, before I started Privy Label, I've been working with US manufacturers for the past 3 years. Before that, I spent 5.5 years working for a brand that solely produced in India, and we were using multiple factories in India. And I cannot tell you, like, the cost to a business to have awful quality and lose a large portion of your goods due to quality issues, or be forced to send it to stores and then have the stores be upset because of the quality. It just happens all the time. No matter how well you know your factory, when you're working overseas, they're not being paid properly. It's not a craft. It's not like when you're working with US manufacturers, these seamstresses it's a craft to them, and they take more. You can see the care, and the quality just shows right through. And it just, I think it's incredibly important for not only for small brands, but for large brands. So I think that, yeah, there's
and turnaround time too. So what a lot of our designers they're doing a pop-up sale for a week or 2 weeks, where they're opening up sales. And then if you're working with some domestically, you can get those products in the customer's hands, especially with a company like David's, very quickly. You can't do that offshore, no way.
You can. You have to plan a year in advance, like with an offshore manufacturer, where with the local manufacturer, I mean, David's amazing. You know, you could, if you're set up, you can do it within, 5 to 10 days. But with other manufacturers, you can get within a month, you can get stuff into your customers' hands. And that's just literally not possible with overseas manufacturing. So it's a huge positive that should be allocated to cost,
Yes, one of the things I find with domestic that has been an advantage is, with calendar, we live and die by the calendar in this industry. And, not having China close for a month for Chinese New Year, and with what had happened with COVID, it really, they were closed for 8 weeks post Chinese New Year this year. So domestic production has definitely been in the forefront of many brands out there as far as balancing out their manufacturing. So those points you brought up are really key. Something else I'd like to present to the panel is that how has technology affected your business, or how are you implementing technology? Because I think as we have this conversation about sustainability, I think technology plays a key role. I'd love to hear more about how you're utilizing technology.
Just loving it. Well, I'll let Diviya go first.
Oh, it's okay. Well, so I wanted to tie in also with what your last question was, is I think one of the really big advantages, and that it goes aligned with technology, is what consumers are looking for now. I think that consumers are looking for transparency, and across the board they want to know where is my garment made from start to finish, down to yarns, fabrics, and to the garment itself. And by nearshoring, I think that you are allowing for transparency in your supply chain. That way you can speak to the product, you have more education behind the fabrics you're using, how a garment was made, who was the person who actually made it by hand. We're still in a labor-driven industry, and so although technology advances and it continues to impact our industry in terms of the type of availability of fabrics, and specifically I'm speaking on the fabric side, but even though that technology does advance, it does at the end of the day, it's still a human being making that product. And so I think it's really important to know that you're taking care of the people who are making these products. And with technology for us, I think there's been significant advances when it comes to the type of products available on the sustainability side specifically. You really can have a transactional approach to where does my, my garment is made from the wood pulp of, let's say, tencel. That's from eucalyptus trees. It has natural moisture wicking properties. You really can dive in and focus on, okay, what am I offering my customers and how are they going to benefit at the end of the day?
My next question has to do with COVID to some degree. COVID has really challenged this entire industry as far as supply chain issues. Being domestic, we have advantages, but how has it affected your company as far as materials or overall supply chain issues?
Material-wise, we've not really had an issue. Several of the mills in the Carolinas have continued to push through all this, which, the brands we white label, all of our materials 100% US based. It's coming from the Carolinas now until we have a talk with Eagle Fabrics here and start chatting with them. But the clients that we're working with have fabric stored on our floor. We store all their fabric and notions at no cost. I want them to have a plethora of offerings out there, not just one blue dress, but bring it in 10 colors. So they've had fabric on the floor and been able to continue production, and we've continued production through this whole thing. We never closed our facility. The first week COVID hit, we decided masks were what you were hearing, and there was a demand. So our employees need that paycheck, and it looked like the public needed masks. So the objective was to keep them employed and not lose money, but we started manufacturing masks, designed a mask over the weekend, cut the first table Sunday, and literally sold the plant out for a month on masks. That's the beauty of on-demand manufacturing. We saw a need, a niche, a trend, and in 36 hours, we're collecting purchase orders for it and delivering product.
Touch base on the technology side quickly. Yes, it's technology has changed. Again, the fit accuracy is so important nowadays. And so with 3D and, on top of the 2D development of patterns, you can actually get down to the best fit possible for your clients. And so with the on-demand manufacturing, you can also wait until like Shopify has it now. So wait until you know the sizes of your client specifically. You can actually tailor to that way for the consumers nowadays. And also in terms of COVID-19, I learned that I can offer my service to people who want to develop innovative masks for the next generation. So we actually are developing a medical mask that will go into FDA approval.
I'd like to add that we just saw so many of our new designers pivot, and there were opportunities in creating masks and not having such large inventories that they were sitting on. That was detrimental to so many larger brands, that there was this surge of these smaller designers that were able to survive through this and do these pop-up shops. We had a lot of sewers and pattern makers take work home because, like David said, they needed paychecks. So they were figuring out a way to get things done, which was amazing. And I feel like the whole industry kind of has banded together to be like, what are we going to do and how are we going to help each other out? And that's been really amazing. So yeah, COVID's been this horrible thing, but I've seen some really beautiful connections made and some really creative ideas on the designers' ways of selling and ways of getting in touch with customers and doing live events like this and virtually. And it's been really inspiring. It's been really inspiring.
Has been. I feel that this industry really came together during COVID, where exactly to David's point, that, I mean, when COVID started, that was the same for us too. We had tons of stock fabric and we immediately pivoted in making masks, but and then it moved forward from there, where I think brands are now like, okay, I need product immediately because stores were closed, and now they're at the point where they're just, you know, aching for material. And so at this point, it's the opportunity to maybe consider redirecting maybe what a vision that a designer may have had in the beginning of their line sheet, and saying, okay, well, you know what, I can't make this vision right now, but maybe I make a little capsule project and I'm offering this product right now for the next couple of weeks. And that goes to the on-demand manufacturing, to what being a local manufacturer you all do. I think it really helps set domestic brands apart, because they can be quick to move and pivot as things are changing and constantly changing in our current environment.
It forced the sustainability too, because all of my designers went through the stock of old fabric. Normally they're buying new fabric, they're coming up with new ideas, but they're all like, how can I use all of this fabric that I wasn't really planning on using because I want fresh fabric? But they were all going through their dead stock, reinventing styles that they've used before. So that was good to see too.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, not producing something is actually more sustainable than creating using a sustainable yarn.
Yeah.
It's actually the better way to make less of an impact.
Doing what we do and what Jenny does with small batches, and what, I mean, you know, Jess and Anna shop that too. It gives that ability to bring that dead stock out there. There's not a material to meet a traditional manufacturer's minimums, but you know, Jenny can work with it, we can work with it, and kind of keep life in that and let it not wind up in a landfill. There's a lady in New York, Tara St. James, who I do, the queen of dead stock. She's just got, you know, I'm always telling people, go talk to her. She's got great resources. Keep some fabric, you know, keep it from going to the garbage. Let's use that first, and then we'll, you know, put in massive orders at Eagle Fabrics.
We have literally over 300 styles in stock, so I'm happy to help.
That's amazing. I'd love to hear a little bit about success stories, because I think there's a tendency in production to hear about the problems, but I'd love to hear about some of the successes you've had with whether your brands or orders.
Yeah, I'd love to jump in there. Because I have a fun success story that involves working with On Point Manufacturing for one of our clients. One of the best things about US manufacturing that everyone has already mentioned is just the timeline, how quickly things can move. We had a boutique that was interested in doing a private label dress for her store, and she wanted customers to kind of be able to be a part of the designing of it. And so we built the sample out. I think she came to us in July. We sourced the fabric from Sextet Fabrics up in, I think they're in Canada, and built the samples out in New Orleans. It was a really cute mod dress where customers could walk into the store and choose like different trims, like they could have sequins or tassels, and they could also choose if they wanted it to be a shorter dress or a longer dress. And we stocked all the fabrics and trims with On Point. I think we had sent it to them in September of the same year, and by November she had her first collection in the store for the launch party for holiday sales. I mean, like from July to November for a launch of a whole new style is like incredible. So it was a fun success story, and also just really neat, you know, to have that customizable ability, which is just not possible with overseas, one at a time at least.
Also have a similar story. During March and April when we were in lockdown, I was still in production and working for the hospitality client. And so after they reopened the hotel and the restaurants in May, at the end of May, they were actually being able to have their uniforms ready for them. So there was no downtime.
Amazing.
I've had quite a few. All of my designers that we're planning on launching in spring, I'd say 95% of them still launched. And we had one designer in particular doing a Mommy and Me line. And she wanted to launch on Mother's Day. Her mom had passed away. It was part of her story that she was going to launch on Mother's Day. But with production looking the way it was, she didn't think it was going to happen. And I was like, you know what? Let's do it. Let's open up this pop-up window, sell for 5 days, see where you're at, and then we can have this done, this manufacturing done, and we can ship out after. And then you still get to launch on Mother's Day, like, the way that you had dreamed. So we went ahead and did that. She launched, she capped it at, I believe, 40 dresses. So we kept it really small, and she just shipped out to everyone this past week successfully, and it went great. So yeah, just finding different ways that you can launch and still move forward. But everyone's been doing it really, really well. So we've had lots of success.
I'd like to introduce Austin Sierra now, who's co-moderating with me. He is a IM College, and he's been fielding your questions. So Austin.
Well, quick enough version. Is there anything online that is an up-to-date list for, say, sustainable manufacturers like yourselves?
I'm familiar, I'm sure everyone else is, with Makers Row. So it's a platform that has a lot of vendors listed on it. When it comes to sustainability, you have to decide what exactly that means to you. Is it the workers? Is it the fabric? Is it, there's a lot of different versions of sustainability. And then you've really got to do your homework and ask the right questions to those factories. But Makers Row has a list. I don't know if you guys know of any other lists. In New York, we've got a list of manufacturers in New York that you can get through a government-funded program. I believe that's online. Yeah, I think those are the lists I know of.
The CFDA also has a list, I think, of factories.
I have to say, I feel really left out. I'm outside of Dallas. I feel like I'm not on anyone's list except Fashion Dex. So hopefully you guys can help me out because
Makers Row does nationwide. So you should definitely look into getting on Makers Row.
I am on their list, but are they charging manufacturers now? Like at one point they were charging a lot, so I didn't want to be part of it.
Yeah, I think if you talk to them directly, but there is a fee to be listed on their website.
Just quickly, last year I was part of the CFDA sustainability meeting, and out of that meeting we brought out the fact that the CFDA needed to create a list and share that list with the industry. And so that list is constantly being updated. So anyone who would like to be on the list should contact them.
People that are shopping at TJ Maxx, Target, do you think they'll be able to afford, say, $128 organic cotton t-shirt, or do you feel like this is a misconception in sustainable fashion?
You can definitely afford quality anytime.
That's right. It does last longer, but I would like to, I saw that question. I thought it was a valid question. And I think that the industry is coming to a tipping point where like even companies like Zara have committed to using all sustainable fibers by 2025. Zara isn't going to be selling a $128 organic t-shirt, but we needed the Targets and the Zaras of the world to jump on board so that we could overall bring the cost of this down. Because currently when you're working with small batch everything and high-end fibers, it's just really expensive, and that's how you get that $128. So I think the time will come. It might not be right now, but it will come.
I think what Jessica's saying too is like you have to know your customer, and are you going to be able to compete with people that are selling at Target? if you're sourcing domestically and doing your manufacturing there, no, you're not. That's not your customer. So you have to just be aware of that it is going to cost more money to do something domestic and small minimums, but educating your customer so that they know what they're paying for. But it's impossible, I'd say, to compete at a Target level price point.
Exactly, to Anna's point, it is about knowing what your customer needs, because, for example, if your customer is their behavior is more towards they're very price conscious, then they may not be actually looking for something completely sustainable. They're going to always be focused on price. But if you're looking for doing something, smaller batch, a little bit more boutique, and that customer is looking for, let's say, at least some storyline that is important to them, maybe it's not using a sustainable fiber, but maybe it's just knowing that their product, they know who made it. That's a form of sustainability. It's about traceability and transparency at that point. So you really have to always work backwards from, okay, what does my customer want and what are they willing to pay for in order to have those benefits? Because it is a spectrum of sustainability. It could be, yes, fiber, or it could be just the garment manufacturing itself.
We have a brand that does sell that $100+ t-shirt, and we make those $100+ t-shirts for that brand.
Yeah, there's a customer there for it. I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you would go into the more premium fibers like Supima cotton, or you can go into GOTS certified organic cotton, or, you could even do organic cotton with modal. There's so many options when you're in that category. But let's say that customer is not willing to pay the price, then you just work from there backwards and say, okay, well, what am I willing to forego in order to make sure that I'm providing what my customer is going to convert for that sale.
The hand of his fabric for that t-shirt is slightly different than the fruit of the loom that you
I'm sure.
I also want to say, Albert's great brand, I'd say, testimonial that people are willing to pay over $100 for a pair of sneakers because we know that the value is there. I mean, knowing that the transparency is there, like Diviya mentioned many times. And that's correct too. Know your target market. If that's not the people, then it's not the people. But I think a lot of people mix up their purchase, right? I shop at Target all the time, but occasionally I give myself a gift, so I will buy that $128 t-shirt.
Thing I wanted to mention too is with so many designers selling direct to customer, they're getting a higher profit margin than when they used to only do wholesale. So there's more wiggle room than when every designer sold wholesale and it was the stores or the department store's responsibility to sell. Now with selling direct to customer, there's more profit margin in there for the designer, which is great.
As far for pattern makers in the industry, a lot of technology is coming into the industry for sustainability. So do you feel like pattern makers are being left out? It's a dying art, or do you feel like they're going to be utilized in a new way?
You cannot die out as a pattern maker only because, to get the best fit, you have to understand the math behind what's a great pattern. But with 3D, with technology, with software, it makes it even more accurate. I mean, I am really anal about that. I'm OCD about that. And so I think a lot of pattern maker will just need to be reskilled, but their knowledge on fit is never going to be replaceable.
What Jenny says, you still, when you're doing pattern making through technology, you still need to understand pattern making. So you need a skilled pattern maker to do that. Our pattern makers have been doing patterns for like 50 years. I don't foresee them learning this new technology, but it is easy to work with them. And what I've seen a lot too is with pattern makers and seamstresses, they didn't teach that to the next generation because and I've asked them and some of them said, sewing wasn't a good life for me. I wanted better for my children. So there is this concept of like, we need something new and technology can step in there and help train new pattern makers in this new wave. But we're always gonna need pattern makers. It's just gonna change how they do their patterns. But currently we do a mix. We still use the paper pattern makers. I don't know, Jessica, do you guys just do everything digital or do you still do everything on paper?
We do a mix as well. So we have everything on paper, but then some clients do want to speed up sample making, and we can work with a pattern maker that has the 3D capability. We have two different, and one who's currently training to get on board with that.
Yeah.
And the one who's training has been a pattern maker for 30 years doing paper
Oh,
pattern making.
awesome.
Yeah. She's older and she's just like, I know I got to do it. Like,
Oh,
it's so
nice.
yeah. So I think that as long as schools keep teaching like the basics of true paper pattern making, I think you're going to have to start there to learn it. And eventually you still need humans to use the computers. Like, it's like, you're still going to need to be involved. So.
If textiles need to be stored to fulfill on-demand production, how is that full circularity of on-demand? How does trend forecasting, the color, the style, it changes over time? So how does that play out with customers?
So
I somewhat heard the question, and I can actually answer to it. But if it's about trend forecasting, how do you stock fabrics in conjunction with what's going on right now? So one really great way to do this is actually through smaller batch dyeing. So for example, we'll stock fabrics in PFD, which stands for prepare for dye. And that way you can essentially create your own blanks. And by, let's say one of the products that you're making is just a classic t-shirt, but you're not sure whether you'll have your core colors, like let's say black, white, navy, and then you'll have maybe a few seasonal colors. It's really great to work with your manufacturer and partner with maybe like a garment dyeing facility where you can assort your blanks as the seasons go. So it's not just stocking the fabric, but stocking the garment itself, because you're not able to forecast those seasonal colors. So that way you have flexibility on the quantity per color. You can actually, let's say one color sold better than another, then also your turnaround time for producing those garments in that color are going to be significantly faster, and it's going to be on track with what the current trend time is.
we make one garment, literally. That's our minimum. So we store all of our clients' fabric and notion at no cost because our minimums are one. I don't need 500 yards of material or 1,000 yards of material. It takes 2 yards of material to make a dress. So bring that blue dress to market, send me 100 yards or 50 or 20 yards of blue material, but also send me yardage of 8 different colors, because you don't have to pay for the garment until you sell the garment and we make the garment. So it's just your raw cost of materials. So that's why we were able to continue producing, because we had clients with multiple fabrics on the floor and doing multiple offers with different SKUs through their website.
I can see the end of Austin's question, which I think would be interesting to hear from you guys. How do you, with trend forecasting, how do you compare trend forecasting versus customers' fickleness? Like, if customers are constantly changing your mind, do you meet them when they're changing their minds? Or how do you know the difference between trend forecasting and customers just being very fickle and changing their minds all the time?
I guess the customer would be my client's customer. And,
Yeah.
and I guess if you figure that out, then you've got a successful business. If you can predict the fickleness of America or Europe, then you are a walk-off home run hitter. That's one, again, that goes back to, yeah, we think the blue's going to work, but it could work in red. So small batches, maybe dead stock, offer it in those different colors, see what works. And if lo and behold, the purple is the one that everyone wants, and that's the one that's trending up and up and up, then give Eagle a call and go, hey, we need 1,000 yards or 5,000 yards of purple, and replenish it.
That's interesting. So you're saying stock low minimums of every color, put it on sale and see what sells. And it doesn't matter if they're fickle or if it's a trend, it's sold, make it.
Exactly. And not making it until you sell it eliminates you having to have a warehouse that looks like a rainbow.
I also think like we partner with WGSN. So for my client, I particularly really focus on, what's trending and look into what the data has been saying. So I will let them know what's going on.
Basically, how do you feel government policy plays a role in sustainability in fashion and fabrics? Do you think having government policy in place to ensure certain standards for sustainability is more important, or having individual business aims is more sustainable, I guess, the level of government involvement in policy.
This will make for a really fun political divide.
Well, on the fabric side, it's really I think a domino effect, actually. I think, or rather a secular effect, where, so like in California, for example, there have been very stringent policies on types of methods of dyeing. And for example, for us, we are ASO-free. We have OEKO certification on all of our dyeing. We use reactive dyes that are metal-free, phthalate-free. So you're really, and then also recycling all of the water prior to actually it being dumped. So there is a lot of policies that have come into place and which do drive better practices, but truth be told, I think most of the better practices and the innovation for moving forward and making progressive moves comes from businesses. It comes from that demand that consumers are demanding from their brands, and brands are then demanding from their suppliers. And that effect is what really has driven change. And you'll see that over the course difference between the last 3 to 5 years, and even from the past 5 to 10 years, as there's been more education and more knowledge given towards consumers' questions about where my product comes from, that has then pushed this industry to move and make better decisions on how they're making their garments.
I think it starts from within. When we were in LA in a talk back last fall, I just had a meeting with a large brand, and one of the heads of it said, I'm just tired of hearing about sustainability. Till we as people do something about it, it's never going to change. Nothing's going to happen. It doesn't matter what the government mandates. It comes back down to, are you going to buy 10 of those $2 t-shirts? Or are you going to go buy a nice $40 t-shirt that's going to last you for 5 years and not being wound up in a third world country being burnt behind a thatch roof hut? That's where it's got to start.
I will say that it has come into play a bit from our clients' perspective. Like, they will come to us and say, like, I want to ensure that for my brand, like, all standards are followed, and I always know that I can go to California. I'm like, well, I know that California has the best laws. So like, if they're following the laws, then you're in the clear. And but I completely agree. Like, we work with vendors all over the world, and I just like to ask the right questions and see what practices they have on a business by business basis. So it does all. I totally agree. It comes down to the consumer in the end.
Agree, it has to come from inside. If our heart, we uphold integrity, then it will happen. I don't think we need government to be on our back all the time, but guidelines are very helpful, and that has to be there.
Well, thank you again, panel, for answering, I think, some great questions from our audience as well as from myself. I think at the forefront of this last question, the role of government is rather in our minds and in our faces right now. I am curious, have you come across any restrictions in manufacturing domestically, whether from a local or a state? I know California has obviously had some challenges, but I'm curious what types of challenges you may have also encountered as a result of regulations.
I can say from our standpoint of our manufacturing being in Florence, Alabama, the town, the mayor, the governor of the state of Alabama, the state senators that have been to visit our plant, we've had nothing but support from the state of Alabama and from Florence, trying to see what we're doing, and wow, we can manufacture product in America, and we can be competitive, and we can be successful. Their question is not how can we regulate you, it's how can we help you.
Diviya, how about in California? Have you had any challenges?
I think some of the challenges come from availability more so than anything else, because like Jessica was saying earlier to the question about like the TJ Maxx and Targets of the world, until that larger like world volume happens, it's tough to implement those changes on the smaller level. And I think that those are some of the challenges that I know a lot of growing brands still face, is how do I have access to products? And so what we've done in our part, as much as we can, is because we work with the whole gamut of size of brands, is where we've actually selected like our top 10 styles that our larger brands are doing, and then we'll overproduce them and forecast to keep them in stock for the smaller brands. So like we'll always have 100% GOT certified organic cotton in stock. We'll also have the spandex version always in stock. And we've narrowed it down to those particular weights and particular constructions of blends that have been the most popular and widely used across the spectrum of garments, so that we can help build these smaller brands, because it's the smaller brands' impact that actually really drives change. And I think it's not to be forgotten, even though I think that sometimes smaller brands feel like they're lower on the totem pole, but that's really not the case. They're the ones who really make the difference.
I think that's a really important point, because I think the customer has changed, the access of social media and direct to consumer definitely has changed the way traditional brands have worked and manufactured. So this is a great, and thank you again, panel. I think we're coming up to our time limit shortly for this incredible conversation, and very honest conversation, I think, about manufacturing here in locally and using the resources. I hope some of our guests today found it to be very insightful, and also exposed yourself to some great resources as well from our panelists that are available to you. I know a large percentage of our audience are individuals in the industry who are also looking for resources, I think, to a great extent, and where they can make the best choices for their companies. Anyone like to?
Email us at info@privylabel.com.
I can be reached at anna@V.Mora.com. That's ANNA at V as in Victor, MORA. And I do a complimentary 20-minute strategy session. So if you've got something you want to run through with a professional, someone that knows industry, feel free to reach out, and I can send you a link to schedule that 20 minutes.
onpointmanufacturing.com, and the website is onpointmanufacturing.com. My contact info is on there as well. Love to hear from you.
I'm Diviya from Eagle Fabrics, and I put my email in the chat. It's diviya@eaglefabrics.com, or our general inbox is info@eaglefabrics.com. Thank you so much for having us.
I'm at InStyleExchange.com, and Jenny at InStyleExchange.com will get to me.
And then also Benjamin Golshani, who I think has been having audio issues, you could reach at noveltex.com in case you are looking also for another Los Angeles West Coast supplier. So I want to thank you all, and especially all of you for your great questions who are watching, as well as Sue for your amazing questions to the panel, and Austin for your help. But thank you so much, David, Jessica, Diviya, Jenny, Ben, and Anna, for joining us this week. And you can meet with all of them if you go to texworld.com right now. You have a couple more hours, or maybe 2 more hours today and all day tomorrow, and walk the virtual trade show there, especially the Pavilion Local Loft, and meet with all of them and have further conversations and make appointments. We also want to thank Kendor Textiles, Echo Life Yarn, and the Accessories Council for your support. If you're interested in sponsoring any of our weekly sessions or the whole series, please reach out to Monica, Juana, or Gladys at fashiondex.com. They're all on our website at fashiondex.com/series. And again, register for TexWorld, and you can visit with all of today's amazing speakers. Thank you to LIM and FashionDex for hosting this. And then FashionDex wants you to know that we have the Fashion Designer Sustainable Source Book if you need more sources for sustainability, as well as a new book that just launched this week, Apparel Costing. And then join us please next week for our 4th of 20 conversations where we'll be speaking to the directors of sustainability at Outer Known, Away Luggage, and Mara Hoffman. And we'll be digging into the sustainable practices at each of those companies. That'll be moderated by graduate faculty Professor Hope Friedman and co-moderated by Bettina Hobson, who just graduated with a master's of supply chain management from LAM College. So thank you all so much, and join us next week.